Hello, my name is Chris Washburne and I'm a trombone player. And today I'd like to speak to you about something that I call creative practicing. Now, one of the things that I've always faced as a trombone player is that I don't have the ability to practice as long as a pianist or a saxophonist or a drummer. Your muscles in your face just get tired too quickly and it get fatigued. And if you over practice, you can actually do some damage. So I needed to figure out a way to be able to practice everything that I needed to in a shorter amount of time. So the first thing is that I decided to put some time limits on myself. I realized that a practice session more than an hour, I would start to get tired and I would need to take breaks. And indeed, it's important to take a lot of breaks. And so what I do is I focus only on the things that I'm no good at and I need work on, for the first thing. And two, I never practice anything for more than 15 minutes at a time. That way, if it's something that I really don't like, I realize it's going to be over soon. And if it's something that I like to play, well, I end always wanting more, which is a good thing. The other thing is that I try to make my practice time mimic as closely as what I need to do when I'm actually on stage playing music. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of music that you play, what kind of style it is, but whatever I do, I think about what it will be like to be on stage playing music when I'm practicing. So one of the first things to keep in mind is that about 90% of all the music that I play has some kind of pulse in it. So therefore, when I practice, I need to practice with a pulse. The easiest way to do that is to turn a metronome on, to really get a very strong sense of pulse, but no matter what I do. So the first 15 minutes, I oftentimes use for strengthening a variety of different exercises for strengthening my muscles. One of those is lip slurs. Now, lip slurs are attacking the first note and sliding between the other notes, like this. That's a lip slur. But if you do that with a metronome, I'll do it with my foot right now. In other words, I'm keeping this pulse, or the metronome is, and I'm changing right on it. It's allowing me to practice those changes so that if I'm playing with a drummer, I can play right with a drummer, or if I'm playing with other instrumentalists, I can change with them. Now, that lip slur is pretty straightforward. I would probably never use that in a playing context. So what's fun to do is maybe come up with lip slurs that actually sound like musical phrases. Here's one that I came up with that uses the interval of the fourth. So I'm going to start on a B flat, I'm going to go to an E flat, an A flat, and a D flat. I can change that around to make it even more musical. So that's doing a couple things at once. It's helping me get a stronger sense of time, it's building my muscles, and it's actually a phrase that I might use in an improvisation, like this. So it's getting a step closer to actually making music. The other muscle that's important to build is your tongue muscle. So when you're doing tonguing exercises, again, think about musical phrases. So with a sense of pulse, so for instance, if I'm working with fast tonguing, I might do this. So in other words, I'm actually working on my tonguing. I'm working on a phrase that I might use in a solo or it might be in a part of music, and I'm still building that sense of pulse. So for instance, in that first 15 minutes of exercises, I'm working on the strengthening. Then the next 15 minutes would be on another aspect of my playing. Now it might be high range, it could be low range, or it could be reading music, an etude, and then for 15 minutes, then move on to the next component, which might be learning songs. Let's say there's a song that I wanted to learn, and I would play that. And then, of course, one of those components, though, one of those segments of practicing also should be focused in on scales. James Moody, the very famous saxophone player, was conducting a master class at age 75. And a student raised their hand and said, "Mr. Moody, what do you practice?" And he said, "I practice major scales." And I thought that was quite remarkable of someone that had such a large career, he was still practicing scales, because scales are the basic building blocks of music. But when we pushed him further about what he did, he says, "Well, I try to do it creatively." So, in other words, you can play a B-flat major scale like this. Sure, and that's useful. But then maybe there's some more creative ways to practice it. Again, with a metronome. Just kind of going up one and down one, up one and down one, or in thirds. You can do it in fourths, you can do it in fifths, you can do it in all sorts of ways. But the idea is make it creative. You come up with the exercise so that you might be able to use this in a playing context. The idea is we all need to practice to get better. We all need to focus on our weaknesses. But let's make it as creative as possible so that when we do get on stage with our trombone in hand, we're ready to go and our creative juices are flowing. Thank you.